In 1922, when archaeologist Howard Carter first opened the tomb of King Tutankhamun, he uncovered more than just treasures of gold and artifacts. Soon after, a series of mysterious deaths struck those who had entered the tomb, sparking whispers of a curse. Some called it coincidence, others called it divine retribution. But one thing was clear: this ancient warning, etched into the very walls of the tomb, had ignited a fear that transcended time. Stories of curses have haunted humanity for centuries, weaving together fear, mystery, and the supernatural into tales that linger in our collective imagination. But why do these curses captivate us so deeply? What is it about the threat of divine punishment or supernatural vengeance that sends shivers down our spines, even in the modern age? Today, we're diving into the dark heart of mythology to explore the most feared curses ever recorded, their origins, their devastating consequences, and the cultural fears they reveal. From the wrath of gods to the binding power of ancient spells, these stories aren't just cautionary tales. They're windows into the human psyche, reminding us of the consequences of hubris, betrayal, and defying the divine. So, are curses mere superstition, or do they hold a deeper truth? Let's unravel the mysteries together. The Curse of the Pharaohs is one of the most infamous and chilling tales in mythology, a story that has fascinated and terrified people for centuries. It all began with the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, an event that seemed to unleash a wave of misfortune. The legend claims that anyone who disturbs the resting place of an ancient Egyptian ruler would face dire consequences, as the spirits of the dead would rise to exact vengeance. This curse wasn't just a superstition. It was believed to be a divine safeguard, a way to protect the sacred tombs from thieves and intruders. When Howard Carter and his team first entered Tutankhamun's tomb, they uncovered unimaginable treasures, but they also awakened something far darker. Shortly after the tomb was opened, strange and tragic events began to unfold. Lord Carnarvon, the financial backer of the expedition, died under mysterious circumstances just months later. His death was followed by a string of untimely fatalities among those who had entered the tomb, from archaeologists to even their family members. Newspapers at the time sensationalized these events, dubbing it the mummy's curse and fueling public fear. But is there any truth to these stories? Modern skeptics argue that the so-called curse was more about coincidence and sensationalism than supernatural forces. Many of the deaths attributed to the curse can be explained by natural causes or the harsh conditions of working in ancient tombs. Yet, the allure of the curse persists, a reminder of humanity's fascination with the unknown and the power of storytelling. What's striking about the Curse of the Pharaohs is how it serves as a warning, a symbolic barrier between the living and the dead, urging respect for the past and its mysteries. This idea of curses as warnings isn't unique to Egypt. Across cultures, curses often carry a deeper message, a way to deter wrongdoing or protect sacred spaces. And as we'll see next, not all curses are tied to ancient tombs. Some are born from the very fabric of human emotion, like the next story we're about to uncover. The story of the House of Atreus is one of the most harrowing tales in Greek mythology, a saga where the sins of one generation cascade into the suffering of the next. It all began with Tantalus, a mortal who dared to test the gods' patience in the most unthinkable way. Legend says he invited the gods to a feast, only to serve them a gruesome meal, his own son, Pelops, chopped into pieces. Though the gods restored Pelops to life, they placed a curse on Tantalus and his descendants, a curse that would echo through the ages. From there, the curse took root in the bloodline. Pelops' sons, Atreus and Thyestes, carried the weight of their father's sins, locked in a vicious cycle of betrayal and revenge. Atreus, in a horrifying act of vengeance, served Thyestes a meal made from his own children, mirroring the cruelty of Tantalus. This act of unspeakable violence only deepened the curse, binding the family to a destiny of bloodshed and tragedy. The curse reached its peak with Agamemnon, the famed leader of the Greek forces in the Trojan War. Upon his return home, he was murdered by his wife, Clytemnestra, as punishment for sacrificing their daughter, Iphigenia, to appease the gods, but the cycle didn't end there. Agamemnon's son, Orsts, driven by duty and rage, avenged his father by killing his own mother. This act of matricide plunged him into a spiral of guilt and madness, pursued relentlessly by the Furies, the goddesses of vengeance. Aeschylus' trilogy, the Oresteia, captures this tale with haunting power, portraying the curse not just as divine punishment, but as a reflection of humanity's darkest impulses. One line from the play reads, "Justice turns the scale, sees that suffering is matched with suffering." It's a chilling reminder of how the curse of the House of Atreus was not just about the gods' wrath, it was about the inescapable consequences of human actions. This curse, spanning generations, shows how deeply intertwined family and fate can be in mythology. It's a story of betrayal, revenge, and the inescapable weight of the past. And as we'll see, this theme of generational curses isn't unique to Greek mythology. It appears in cultures around the world, each with its own haunting tales of divine retribution. Imagine a ship shrouded in mist, its tattered sails billowing in the wind as it glides silently across the waves, never to find harbor, never to rest. This is the Flying Dutchman, one of the most haunting legends in maritime folklore. The tale speaks of a ghost ship cursed to roam the seas for eternity, its crew doomed to an existence of endless wandering. But how did this curse come to be? The origins are steeped in mystery, with some versions claiming the captain defied the heavens, swearing he would round the Cape of Good Hope even if it took until Judgment Day. Others suggest he blasphemed against the natural order, challenging the very forces of the sea. Whatever the cause, the result was a curse so profound it bound the ship and its crew to an unending journey, forever denied the solace of land. This legend has captured imaginations for centuries, finding its way into literature, opera, and even blockbuster films. It's not just a story of a cursed ship, it's a powerful metaphor for isolation and the weight of eternal punishment. The Flying Dutchman represents the human fear of being trapped, of being cut off from the world and forced to endure a fate with no escape. And while the curse itself is supernatural, its themes resonate deeply with anyone who has ever felt adrift, lost in a cycle they can't break. Curses like this one remind us that some punishments aren't about physical harm. They're about the torment of being denied closure, peace, or even the simple comfort of an ending. The Flying Dutchman's curse is a stark reminder of how defiance, pride, or even a single moment of hubris can lead to consequences that echo across time. It's a chilling thought, to be condemned not just to suffer, but to suffer endlessly with no hope of reprieve. And as we'll see, curses like this one are far from unique. They reflect a universal fear of being trapped in a cycle of torment, whether by fate, by gods, or by our own choices. The Hope Diamond, a dazzling blue gem that has captivated imaginations for centuries, but behind its breathtaking beauty lies a chilling tale of tragedy and misfortune. Believed to have originated in India, this legendary stone was said to have been stolen from the eye of a sacred statue, invoking the wrath of the gods. From there, its journey became a trail of despair, as each owner seemed to fall victim to unimaginable horrors. One of the most infamous stories involves King Louis XVI of France, who gifted the diamond to his queen, Marie Antoinette. Not long after, both met their gruesome ends during the French Revolution. Centuries later, American socialite Evelyn Walsh McLean purchased the gem, only to suffer the death of her son, the collapse of her marriage, and financial ruin. Even those who merely handled the stone, like jewelers and historians, reported strange accidents and illnesses. But is the Hope Diamond truly cursed, or is its dark reputation merely a product of superstition and coincidence? Skeptics argue that its storied history is more about human fascination with the macabre than any supernatural force. Yet, the sheer number of tragedies tied to this gem makes it hard to dismiss outright. Perhaps the real curse lies in the weight of its legend, shaping the lives of those who dare to possess it. This idea of cursed objects, whether through supernatural means or the power of belief, opens the door to even more chilling tales. Because if a gem can carry such a heavy legacy, what other artifacts might hold the same deadly potential? In the shadowed whispers of Latin American folklore, one story stands out as both haunting and heartbreaking: the tale of La Llorona, the weeping woman. This legend tells of a woman consumed by jealousy and rage who drowned her own children in a fit of despair. Overcome with guilt, she took her own life soon after, but death offered no escape. Her spirit was cursed to wander the earth for eternity, weeping and wailing as she searched in vain for her lost children. Her cries, echoing through the night, have become a chilling warning to those who dare to wander alone near rivers or dark, lonely paths. What makes La Llorona so compelling is not just the horror of her actions, but the deep emotional weight of her story. Across Latin America, variations of her tale exist, each reflecting the cultural values and fears of the region. In some versions, she is a woman betrayed by her lover, driven to madness by his infidelity. In others, she is a protective mother, punished for her inability to shield her children from harm. Regardless of the specifics, the core of her curse remains the same: a mother's grief, guilt, and the eternal consequences of her choices. This legend has long served as a cautionary tale, warning children to stay close to home and avoid the dangers of the night. But it also carries a deeper message about the weight of human emotions. La Llorona's curse is not just a punishment, it's a reflection of the unrelenting pain that comes from guilt and loss. Her eternal wandering mirrors the way grief can trap us, binding us to the past in ways that feel inescapable. Her story is a reminder that curses often arise from personal tragedy, moments of despair or desperation that ripple outward, leaving devastation in their wake. And yet, there's a strange kind of empathy in her tale. La Llorona isn't just a monster, she's a figure of sorrow, a reminder of how easily love can twist into something destructive when fueled by pain. Her curse is as much a reflection of her humanity as it is of her sins. In the misty hills of Ireland, where ancient legends linger like the morning fog, there exists a figure whose cry chills the blood of those who hear it. The Banshee, a spectral woman cloaked in sorrow, is more than just a ghostly apparition. She is a harbinger of death. Her mournful wail, echoing through the night, is said to foretell the passing of a family member, a curse that binds her to specific lineages. Unlike curses that bring immediate destruction, the Banshee's warning is both a blessing and a burden. For those who hear her cry, it is a chance to prepare to say goodbye, but it is also a reminder that fate cannot be escaped. This curse is deeply rooted in Irish folklore, where the Banshee is often tied to old, noble families. She is not a malevolent force, but rather a guardian of sorts, her presence a sign of respect for the family's history. Yet her role is undeniably tragic. Her wail is not a curse that brings death, but a signal that death is near, a distinction that places her in a unique position among mythological figures. She is both a protector and a messenger of doom, a paradox that reflects the complexities of life and death. The Banshee's curse also reveals a fascinating cultural belief in omens. In a world where the line between the natural and the supernatural was often blurred, signs like her wail were taken seriously. It was believed that ignoring such warnings could lead to even greater misfortune, as if fate itself demanded acknowledgement. This intertwining of curses and omens highlights how ancient cultures used mythology to make sense of the unknown, turning fear into a form of understanding. Curses like the Banshee serve as more than just tales of terror. They are reminders of the inevitability of fate. While some curses are meant to harm, others, like hers, act as warnings. They force us to confront the fragility of life and the power of destiny, themes that resonate across cultures and time. The Banshee's wail is not just a sound of despair, it is a call to remember that even in the face of death, there is a strange kind of comfort in knowing what lies ahead. In the shadowy realms of Norse and Germanic mythology, few objects carry as much weight both literally and symbolically as the Ring of the Niblung. This cursed artifact, immortalized in Richard Wagner's epic operatic cycle, is far more than a simple piece of gold. It's a symbol of ultimate power, but also of inevitable ruin. The ring, forged by the cunning dwarf Alberich after he renounced love to claim its creation, becomes a magnet for greed, betrayal, and destruction. Whoever wields it gains dominion over the world, but at a terrible cost. The curse ensures that each possessor meets a tragic end. Wagner's ring cycle captures this haunting inevitability with lines like, "He who possesses the ring will be consumed by its curse." The ring's journey through the hands of gods, giants, and heroes is a relentless descent into chaos. Even Wotan, the king of the gods, is not immune. His hunger for power leads him to manipulate and deceive, but the curse spares no one. The ring's power corrupts absolutely, turning allies into enemies and dreams into nightmares. At its core, the Curse of the Niblung ring is a cautionary tale about the destructive nature of greed. It's not just about the physical object, but what it represents, the insatiable desire for control and the belief that power can fill the void left by love and humanity. The ring's curse punishes those who seek to dominate others, showing that ambition, when unchecked by wisdom or humility, leads only to ruin. This theme of hubris and its consequences isn't unique to the Ring of the Niblung. Across myths and legends, curses often serve as cosmic justice, punishing those who overreach or violate natural order. The ring's tale reminds us that power, when pursued without regard for its cost, becomes a prison, one that locks its wielder in a cycle of loss and despair. Among the most chilling curses in mythology is the tale of the Wendigo, a haunting figure from Algonquian folklore. This cursed being begins as a human, but is transformed into a monstrous entity consumed by an unending, insatiable hunger. The Wendigo curse is said to strike those who resort to cannibalism in desperate times, turning them into grotesque creatures with an appetite that can never be satisfied. But this isn't just a story about physical transformation. It's a profound exploration of moral decay and the fragility of the human spirit. At its core, the Wendigo legend reflects deep-seated fears about the consequences of abandoning one's humanity. The curse doesn't merely change the body, it warps the mind and soul. Those afflicted become hollow shells of their former selves, driven solely by an overwhelming need to consume. The more they feed, the stronger their hunger grows, creating a vicious cycle of destruction and despair. This duality of physical monstrosity and psychological torment makes the Wendigo one of the most terrifying figures in mythology. Culturally, the Wendigo serves as a cautionary tale, warning against greed, selfishness, and the dangers of losing touch with one's moral compass. It's a stark reminder of how quickly desperation can erode our humanity, leaving us vulnerable to the darkness within. The curse also highlights the interconnectedness of physical and spiritual health, suggesting that actions born of desperation can have irreversible consequences. What makes the Wendigo particularly fascinating is its ability to mirror our own fears about moral decay. In many ways, the curse represents the ultimate loss of control, a descent into a state where hunger, both literal and metaphorical, overrides all sense of right and wrong. It's a chilling reminder of how curses, whether literal or symbolic, can alter not just our circumstances but our very nature. And as we move forward, we'll explore how curses like this one continue to shape our understanding of human behavior and the consequences of our choices. The Curse of the Mummy is one of the most enduring and chilling tales to emerge from Egyptian mythology, a story that has transcended time to become a cornerstone of horror fiction. At its heart, this curse was believed to be a protective mechanism, a divine punishment for anyone who dared to disturb the eternal rest of the dead. Ancient Egyptians held a profound reverence for their deceased, viewing the afterlife as a sacred journey. To disrupt a tomb was to invite the wrath of the gods themselves. The curse wasn't just a warning, it was a promise of retribution, often described as a blend of supernatural power and the deceased's lingering anger. In fiction, the Curse of the Mummy has been dramatized to terrifying effect, with tales of desecrated tombs leading to vengeful spirits rising from the dead. These stories often feature plagues, mysterious deaths, and eerie phenomena haunting those who disturb the mummy's slumber. But how much of this is rooted in reality? Historical accounts do suggest that the ancient Egyptians took measures to protect their tombs, sometimes inscribing warnings on the walls. One famous example comes from the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun, where inscriptions warned of a swift and terrible fate for anyone who violated the burial site. When the tomb was opened in the 1920s, the subsequent deaths of several expedition members fueled speculation about the curse's authenticity, though modern scholars often attribute these events to coincidence or natural causes. What's fascinating is how these curses reflect a universal human fear, the fear of trespassing into the forbidden. Whether real or imagined, the idea of a curse guarding sacred spaces resonates across cultures and time periods. It's a reminder that some boundaries are not meant to be crossed, and that the dead, in their own way, have the power to exact justice. As we move forward, we'll explore how this theme of curses as protectors of the sacred appears in other mythologies, each with its own unique twist on the consequences of disrespecting the divine. The Curse of the Dybbuk is one of the most chilling tales in Jewish folklore, a story that blurs the line between the living and the dead. Unlike curses that strike from afar, the Dybbuk is a malevolent spirit that invades the living, taking control of a person's body and mind. It's said to be the restless soul of someone who committed grave sins in life, unable to find peace or move on to the afterlife. This spirit seeks refuge in the body of a living person, often someone vulnerable or spiritually weak, creating a haunting struggle between the possessed and the possessor. What makes the Dybbuk particularly terrifying is its connection to unresolved sins. In Jewish tradition, it's believed that these spirits are driven by unfinished business or unconfessed wrongdoings, forcing them to linger in the mortal world. The possessed individual becomes a battleground for the Dybbuk's torment, experiencing physical and emotional agony as the spirit fights to maintain control. This curse isn't just a punishment for the living, it's a reflection of the dead's desperate need for redemption, a chilling reminder of how unresolved guilt can transcend even death. To combat this dark force, Jewish tradition developed intricate exorcism rituals known as Seder HaDybbuk. These ceremonies are deeply rooted in spiritual practices, often involving prayers, invocations, and the use of sacred objects like the shofar, a ram's horn. The exorcism isn't just about driving out the Dybbuk, it's a process of healing and restoration, both for the possessed and the spirit itself. By confronting the Dybbuk's sins and guiding it toward repentance, the ritual offers a chance for closure, not just for the living, but for the restless soul as well. The Dybbuk's curse also raises a fascinating question. How do curses, typically seen as tools of the supernatural, find their way into the world of the living? It's a reminder that curses aren't always distant or abstract. They can invade our lives in the most intimate and terrifying ways. Whether through possession, haunting, or other forms of spiritual intrusion, the Dybbuk shows us that the boundaries between life and death, sin and redemption, are far more fragile than we might think. The Curse of the Black Pearl, immortalized in the Pirates of the Caribbean films, is a haunting tale that draws from centuries of maritime folklore. This curse, born of greed and betrayal, transforms its victims into skeletal undead beings, cursed to walk the earth without the warmth of life. By day, they appear as ordinary pirates, but under the moonlight, their true nature is revealed, rotting skeletal figures forever denied the pleasures of food, drink, or even the touch of the sea breeze. It's a chilling punishment for those who stole cursed Aztec gold, a reminder that no treasure is worth the price of one's humanity. This curse taps into a deep well of nautical superstition. Sailors have long told tales of ghost ships and cursed crews, doomed to roam the seas for eternity. The idea of being cursed by greed, unable to enjoy the spoils of one's plunder, resonates with universal fears about the consequences of unchecked ambition. What makes the Curse of the Black Pearl so compelling is how it blends these ancient fears with modern storytelling. The curse isn't just a punishment, it's a symbol of the pirates' moral decay, a visual representation of their inner corruption. Cinematographically, the curse's reveal is a masterstroke of horror and wonder. The moment when Jack Sparrow's crew transforms under the moonlight is both terrifying and mesmerizing, a perfect blend of folklore and visual spectacle. This curse, while rooted in myth, feels fresh and thrilling when brought to life on screen. It's a testament to how timeless fears can be reimagined for new audiences, reminding us that curses aren't just about punishment, they're about the stories we tell to make sense of our fears. What's particularly fascinating is how this curse blurs the line between life and death. The cursed pirates are neither fully alive nor truly dead, trapped in a liminal state that mirrors their moral ambiguity. It's a reminder that curses often exist in the gray areas where the boundaries between worlds grow thin. And as we'll see next, this theme of blurred boundaries takes on even darker dimensions in other myths, where curses don't just punish the living, they challenge the very nature of existence itself. The Harpies, with their haunting wings and razor-sharp talons, were more than just mythical creatures, they were instruments of divine retribution. In Greek mythology, these winged beings were often sent by the gods to punish those who dared to defy or anger them. Their role was not just to frighten, but to inflict a specific kind of suffering, a relentless torment that left no room for escape or peace. One of the most infamous tales involving the Harpies is the story of Phineus, a king who fell from grace after abusing the gift of prophecy granted to him by Zeus. His punishment, the Harpies were dispatched to snatch away his food before he could eat, leaving him perpetually hungry and desperate, a living symbol of divine wrath. What makes the Curse of the Harpies so chilling is its inescapable nature. They weren't a one-time punishment, they were a constant presence, a reminder that the gods' anger could be both creative and cruel. Phineus' torment wasn't just physical, it was psychological, a never-ending cycle of hope and despair as he reached for sustenance only to have it torn away. This curse wasn't just about suffering, it was about humiliation, a public display of divine justice that left no doubt about who held the power. The Harpies embodied the idea that some curses aren't meant to kill but to linger, to break the spirit over time. This concept of curses as relentless tormentors isn't unique to Greek mythology. Across cultures, curses often take the form of persistent, inescapable forces, whether it's the Furies pursuing a guilty soul or the unending drought brought on by a broken taboo. What ties these curses together is their ability to wear down the cursed, not through a single catastrophic event, but through a slow, grinding erosion of peace and stability. The Harpies, with their ceaseless attacks, remind us that sometimes the greatest punishment isn't death, but the inability to ever truly rest or recover. Their story serves as a stark warning. divine retribution is not only inevitable but often tailored to make the punishment as unforgettable as the crime. Few figures in folklore evoke as much chilling dread as the Headless Horseman, a ghostly pursuer whose legend has haunted imaginations for centuries. Born from Washington Irving's timeless tale, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Horseman is more than just a spectral figure. He's a cursed soul bound to an endless cycle of torment. According to the story, the Horseman was a Hessian soldier decapitated by a cannonball during the American Revolutionary War, but death wasn't the end for him. Instead, he was cursed to roam the earth, forever searching for the head he lost on that fateful battlefield. This curse isn't just about punishment, it's a tragic loop, a reminder of the violence that shaped his fate and the restless spirit he's doomed to embody. What makes this curse so haunting is its specificity. The Horseman isn't merely a wandering ghost, he's a relentless hunter, driven by a singular, grotesque purpose. Every night he rides through the dark woods of Sleepy Hollow, his spectral horse galloping with terrifying speed, his headless form a nightmare come to life. And while the legend is most famously tied to Irving's story, variations of the curse appear in folklore across cultures. In Irish mythology, for example, the Duality is a headless rider who carries his own severed head, a harbinger of death. These parallels suggest a universal fear of the unknown, of spirits trapped in cycles they can't escape. The cultural impact of the Headless Horseman is undeniable. From literature to film, his story has been retold and reimagined countless times, each version adding new layers to his curse. He's become a symbol of eternal unrest, a figure who embodies the consequences of violence and the price of unfinished business. But beyond the horror, there's something deeply human about his plight. His curse isn't just supernatural, it's a metaphor for the ways trauma can trap us, forcing us to relive our darkest moments over and over again. Curses like this one reveal a fascinating aspect of mythology, the idea that some spirits are never truly free. Whether it's the Horseman searching for his head or other restless souls bound to repeat their suffering, these stories remind us that curses aren't just about punishment, they're about cycles, patterns that trap even the dead. And as we explore these tales, we begin to see how deeply they resonate with our own fears of being stuck, of never finding peace. The Headless Horseman may be a figure of legend, but his curse feels all too real. The Kraken, a legendary sea monster of unimaginable size and power, has haunted the nightmares of sailors for centuries. Emerging from the depths of Norse mythology, this colossal creature was said to dwell in the cold, dark waters of the North Atlantic, its massive tentacles capable of dragging entire ships beneath the waves. But the Kraken wasn't just a physical threat, it carried with it a curse, a harbinger of doom for anyone unlucky enough to cross its path. Sailors believed that even the sight of the Kraken was an omen of disaster, a sign that their voyage was doomed to end in tragedy. This curse wasn't just about the creature itself. It symbolized the uncontrollable and often terrifying forces of nature that humanity has always struggled to understand. In Norse mythology, the Kraken was often linked to the god of the sea, Aegir, and his wife, Ran, who were known to claim the lives of sailors as their own. The curse of the Kraken, then, wasn't just a random act of destruction. It was seen as divine retribution, a reminder that the sea was a realm beyond human control. Over time, the Kraken's legend spread beyond Scandinavia, finding its way into literature and popular culture. From the pages of Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea to modern blockbuster films, the Kraken has become a symbol of humanity's primal fear of the unknown depths and the untamable power of the ocean. What makes the curse of the Kraken so compelling is how it reflects our deep-seated anxieties about the natural world. The ocean, vast and mysterious, has always been a place of both wonder and terror. It's a realm where the rules of the land no longer apply, where unseen dangers lurk beneath the surface. The Kraken embodies this fear, its curse serving as a reminder that no matter how advanced our technology or how brave our explorers, there are forces in this world that remain beyond our understanding. And perhaps that's why the legend of the Kraken endures. It's not just a story about a monster, but a reflection of our own vulnerability in the face of nature's unpredictability. This fear of the unknown, so vividly captured in the Curse of the Kraken, leads us to a broader question. How do curses, in general, embody the natural forces that shape our lives? From the wrath of the sea to the fury of the storm, many mythological curses are rooted in humanity's attempts to make sense of the world around us. They serve as warnings, stories that remind us of the power and unpredictability of nature and the consequences of underestimating it. Few figures in mythology embody the duality of victim and monster as starkly as Medusa, the Gorgon whose very gaze could turn men to stone. Her story begins not as a tale of terror, but as one of divine punishment. Once a beautiful maiden, Medusa caught the attention of Poseidon, the god of the sea. Their encounter in Athena's temple enraged the goddess, who transformed Medusa's flowing hair into a nest of venomous snakes and cursed her with the power to petrify anyone who met her eyes. This curse wasn't just a punishment, it was an exile, turning her into a creature so fearsome that even her own reflection became a threat. But Medusa's curse carries a deeper symbolic weight. Her transformation into a Gorgon reflects the ancient world's complex views on power, beauty, and fear. She became a living paradox, a woman punished for the actions of a god, yet feared for the very curse that isolated her. Her petrifying gaze wasn't just a weapon, it was a prison, forcing her into solitude and turning her into a symbol of divine retribution. Even in her monstrous form, Medusa's story evokes sympathy, reminding us that curses often transform their victims into something unrecognizable, both to themselves and to the world. Her role in mythology is equally layered. While she's often portrayed as a villain, Medusa's image was also used as a protective talisman known as the Gorgonean. Ancient Greeks placed her likeness on shields, temples, and doorways, believing her terrifying visage could ward off evil. This duality, monster and guardian, reveals how curses can reshape not just individuals, but the way entire cultures perceive them. Medusa's curse didn't just turn her into a figure of fear, it made her a lasting symbol of the fine line between victim and oppressor, beauty and horror, humanity and monstrosity. Curses like Medusa's remind us of their transformative power, not just physically but symbolically. They take ordinary beings and turn them into legends, often at a cost too great to bear. And as we'll see next, this theme of transformation through curse isn't unique to Medusa. It echoes through countless myths, where the cursed become both feared and immortalized, their stories etched into the fabric of mythology itself. The phoenix, a mythical bird shrouded in flames and mystery, carries a curse that is as beautiful as it is tragic. Unlike other curses that bring only suffering, the phoenix's fate is a paradox, a cycle of death and rebirth that continues endlessly. This creature, often depicted with radiant feathers of gold and crimson, is destined to burn itself alive, only to rise again from its own ashes. Yet this rebirth is not a gift, it is a relentless loop, a curse that binds the phoenix to an eternity of transformation. The symbolism here is profound. On one hand, the phoenix represents renewal, resilience, and the indomitable spirit of life. Its ability to rise from the ashes has made it a powerful emblem of hope and regeneration across cultures, from ancient Egypt to Greek mythology and beyond. But beneath this hopeful veneer lies a darker truth. The phoenix is condemned to suffer. Its rebirth is not a choice but a compulsion, a reminder that even the most glorious transformations can come at a cost. In Egyptian mythology, the phoenix, known as the Bennu bird, was associated with the sun god Ra and the cycle of the sun's daily death and rebirth. For the Greeks, it became a symbol of immortality and the soul's endurance. Yet, in both traditions, the phoenix's story is tinged with melancholy. Its endless cycle reflects the duality of existence, life and death, joy and pain, creation and destruction, all intertwined in an unbreakable dance. This duality raises a fascinating question. Can a curse also be a blessing? The phoenix's curse forces us to confront the idea that suffering and renewal are often two sides of the same coin. It reminds us that even in the face of despair, there is the potential for rebirth, but it also warns us that not all transformations are liberating. Some are inescapable, a perpetual cycle that offers no true escape. As we reflect on the phoenix's story, it becomes clear that curses are not always straightforward. They can embody the complexities of life itself, blurring the lines between punishment and purpose. The phoenix's curse is a poignant reminder of how life and death are often intertwined, each giving meaning to the other. And as we move forward, this theme of duality will only deepen, revealing how curses can shape not just individual lives but entire destinies. Few curses capture the imagination quite like the curse of the werewolf, a transformation that twists a human into a beast under the light of the moon. This haunting legend has its roots deep in European folklore, where tales of men and women turning into wolves have been whispered for centuries. But what makes this curse so enduring? At its core, the werewolf myth isn't just about physical transformation. It's a reflection of humanity's struggle with its own dual nature. The cursed individual becomes a walking contradiction, part human, part monster, embodying the primal instinct civilized society tries to suppress. The origins of the werewolf curse vary across cultures, but one common thread is the idea of punishment or divine retribution. In some stories, the curse is a penalty for committing heinous crimes. In others, it's the result of a pact gone wrong or exposure to dark magic. Regardless of the cause, the werewolf curse serves as a metaphor for the beast within the untamed, raw side of human nature that lurks beneath the surface. Psychologically, the werewolf legend taps into our deepest fears about losing control. The transformation is often described as agonizing, a violent process where the cursed individual is fully aware of their actions but powerless to stop them. This helplessness mirrors the internal battles many face: struggles with anger, desire, or other emotions society deems unacceptable. The werewolf curse, then, isn't just a physical affliction. It's a manifestation of the inner turmoil that comes with being human. What's fascinating is how this curse reveals hidden aspects of the self. By day, the werewolf might appear ordinary, even virtuous, but under the moon's glow, the mask slips and the truth is laid bare. This duality forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. What parts of ourselves do we hide? What darkness do we bury deep within? In this way, the curse of the werewolf becomes a lens through which we examine our own complexities, reminding us that even the most civilized among us carry a shadow. Curses like this one don't just punish, they expose. They strip away the layers we build around ourselves, revealing truths we'd rather keep hidden. And as we explore these ancient tales, we begin to see that the real curse might not be the transformation itself, but the self-awareness it brings, the knowledge of what lies beneath the surface, waiting to emerge. Among the most haunting curses in mythology is the deadly allure of the Sirens, whose voices carried a melody so irresistible it drove sailors to madness. In Greek mythology, these creatures were often depicted as part woman, part bird, perched on rocky cliffs overlooking the sea. Their song was no ordinary melody. It was a weapon, a curse that preyed on the deepest desires of those who heard it. Sailors, lured by the promise of beauty and ecstasy, would steer their ships toward the source of the sound, only to meet a grim fate on the jagged rocks below. The Sirens didn't just kill, they ensnared their victims with the very thing they longed for most. What makes the Curse of the Sirens so chilling is its psychological dimension. It wasn't brute force or supernatural power that doomed these sailors, it was their own desires. The Sirens represented the ultimate temptation, a metaphor for the dangers of unchecked longing. In many myths, they weren't inherently evil. They were simply fulfilling their cursed nature, a punishment inflicted upon them by the gods for reasons lost to time. This duality, their beauty and their cruelty, makes them a fascinating symbol of how desire can be both alluring and destructive. The story of Odysseus and the Sirens offers a glimpse into how one might resist such a curse. As told in Homer's Odyssey, Odysseus had his crew plug their ears with beeswax and tie him to the mast of the ship so he could hear the siren's song without succumbing to it. This act of restraint and foresight highlights the human capacity to overcome temptation, but it also underscores the immense power of the curse. Even Odysseus, a hero known for his cunning, had to take extreme measures to avoid falling victim to their deadly allure. At its core, the Curse of the Sirens speaks to a universal truth. The things we desire most can sometimes lead us astray. Whether it's power, love, or glory, the pull of temptation is a force as old as humanity itself. The Sirens remind us that curses don't always come in the form of physical harm. They can exploit our weaknesses, our passions, and our dreams. And in a world where desire often feels inescapable, their story serves as a timeless warning about the perils of giving in to what we think we want. This idea of curses preying on human vulnerabilities is a recurring theme in mythology, showing us that sometimes the greatest threats come not from external forces but from within. The Curse of the Minotaur is one of the most haunting tales in Greek mythology, a story that intertwines monstrosity, isolation, and the inescapable weight of fate. Born from the union of Queen Pasiphae and a sacred bull, the Minotaur was a creature of both human and beast, a living embodiment of divine punishment. Its very existence was a curse, a grotesque reminder of a queen's transgression and the wrath of the gods. But the Minotaur's torment didn't end with its monstrous form. It was condemned to dwell in the depths of the labyrinth, an intricate maze designed by the legendary craftsman Daedalus. This labyrinth wasn't just a physical prison, it was a psychological one, a place where the Minotaur roamed in eternal darkness, cut off from the world above. The Curse of the Minotaur goes beyond its physical form. It's a story that speaks to the human fear of isolation and the ways in which we can become trapped, not just by walls or chains, but by our own nature. The labyrinth, with its endless twists and turns, mirrors the confusion and despair of being lost within oneself. For the Minotaur, there was no escape, no redemption, only the endless cycle of hunger and rage. And yet, even in its monstrosity, the Minotaur evokes a strange sense of pity. It was a creature born of human folly, cursed to live as something neither man nor beast, forever caught between two worlds. This curse also carries a deeper symbolic meaning. The labyrinth represents the complexities of the human mind, the tangled paths of guilt, fear, and shame that can trap us in our own mental prisons. The Minotaur, then, becomes a symbol of the darker aspects of ourselves, the parts we try to hide, the secrets we bury deep. Its story reminds us that curses aren't always about external forces. Sometimes they're the result of our own choices, the consequences of actions that spiral out of control. Curses like this one don't just create physical barriers. They shape the way we see ourselves and the world around us. The Minotaur's curse is a powerful reminder of how isolation, whether self-imposed or inflicted by others, can transform us. It's a theme that resonates across myths and cultures, showing us that curses are as much about the mind as they are about the body. And as we'll see, this idea of being trapped, whether in a labyrinth or by one's own thoughts, echoes in many other legendary curses. The Curse of the Vampire is one of the most chilling and enduring tales in mythology, a haunting reminder of the price of immortality. Imagine being cursed to walk the earth for eternity, never aging, never dying, but forever bound to a life of darkness and insatiable hunger. This is the plight of the vampire, a creature born from Eastern European folklore and immortalized in countless stories, books, and films. At its core, the curse of the vampire is a paradox, a gift of eternal life twisted into a horrific punishment. The origins of the vampire myth can be traced back to ancient Slavic and Balkan traditions, where stories of the undead often served as cautionary tales. These early vampires weren't the suave, aristocratic figures we see in modern media. They were grotesque, decaying beings that rose from their graves to prey on the living. The curse was seen as a divine punishment for those who lived sinful lives or died without proper rites, condemning them to an existence of eternal torment. Over time, these folkloric roots evolved, blending with literary works like Bram Stoker's Dracula, and later transforming into the brooding, charismatic figures we recognize today. But what makes the vampire's curse so uniquely terrifying? It's not just the physical act of feeding on blood, it's the moral decay that comes with it. The vampire is cursed not only with an unending thirst, but also with the erosion of their humanity. They must harm others to survive, forcing them into a cycle of violence and guilt. This curse reflects a deep-seated fear of immortality, not as a blessing, but as a prison. To live forever is to watch the world change while you remain the same, isolated and alienated from the very life you crave. It's a poignant metaphor for the human struggle with morality, power, and the consequences of our choices. Curses like the vampires also reveal how deeply intertwined they are with the natural order, or rather, how they disrupt it. Vampires defy the cycle of life and death, existing in a liminal space between the living and the dead. Their curse perverts the natural balance, turning what should be a source of life, blood, into a tool of destruction. This inversion of the natural order is a recurring theme in many mythological curses, serving as a stark reminder of the chaos that follows when boundaries are crossed. Whether it's immortality, unchecked power, or forbidden knowledge, curses often strike at the heart of what it means to be human, forcing us to confront the darker side of our desires. And as we delve deeper into the world of curses, we begin to see how they mirror our own fears and anxieties, fears of losing control, of becoming something monstrous, of being trapped in a fate we cannot escape. The vampire's curse is more than just a tale of horror. It's a reflection of the human condition, a reminder that even the most alluring promises can come with deadly consequences. Picture this: three ancient figures cloaked in mystery, spinning the threads of every mortal life. In Greek mythology, the fates Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos are the weavers of destiny, controlling the length and outcome of every life with their unbreakable threads. Clotho spins the thread, Lachesis measures its length, and Atropos, the most feared of the three, wields the shears to cut it at the appointed time. Their power is absolute, their decisions final. To be cursed by the fates is to be bound by the ultimate force, inescapable destiny. What makes the curse of the fates so terrifying is its inevitability. No hero, no matter how brave or cunning, can outrun their decree. Even the mightiest figures in Greek mythology, like Oedipus or Achilles, found themselves ensnared in the threads woven by these relentless beings. Oedipus, for instance, tried desperately to escape his prophesied fate, only to fulfill it through his very efforts to avoid it. This paradox, the more you struggle against destiny, the more tightly it binds you, lies at the heart of the curse. It's not merely a punishment, it's a reminder of the futility of resisting the cosmic order. The fates also play a crucial role in shaping the dramatic tension of mythological stories. Their presence looms over every tale, a constant reminder that even the gods themselves are subject to their laws. Zeus, the king of the gods, may wield thunderbolts, but he cannot alter the threads spun by the fates. This balance of power adds depth to the myths, showing that even the most powerful beings are bound by forces greater than themselves. It's a humbling concept, one that underscores the fragility of life and the inevitability of fate. Curses like those of the fates aren't just about punishment, they're about the human condition. They force us to confront questions about free will, destiny, and the limits of our control. Are we truly the authors of our own lives, or are we simply playing out a story already written? The fates don't answer these questions, they simply pose them, leaving us to grapple with the implications. And in that sense, their curse isn't just a mythological device, it's a mirror reflecting our deepest fears and uncertainties. This idea of inescapable fate isn't unique to Greek mythology either. Across cultures, curses often embody the forces that shape our lives, forces we can neither see nor fully understand. Whether it's the fates weaving their threads or the whispers of prophecy guiding a hero's path, these curses remind us that some things are simply beyond our control. And perhaps that's what makes them so enduring. They speak to a truth we all feel, even if we can't quite name it. From the chilling whispers of the curse of the Pharaohs to the relentless fury of the Erinyes, we've journeyed through some of the most feared curses in mythology. These stories, born from the depths of human imagination, are more than just tales of doom. They are windows into the values, fears, and moral lessons of the cultures that created them. The Curse of the Pharaohs reflects humanity's awe and fear of the divine, while the Erinyes remind us of the inescapable consequences of betrayal and injustice. And let's not forget the haunting tale of the Flying Dutchman, a grim reminder of the price of hubris and the dangers of defying the natural order. Curses like these endure because they tap into something universal, our deepest fears and our fascination with the unknown. They teach us about the power of storytelling to explore the boundaries of morality, fate, and the human condition. Through these myths, we grapple with questions of justice, retribution, and the consequences of our actions, questions that remain as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. So here's a question to ponder. What would you do if you found yourself face to face with an ancient curse? Would you seek redemption, defy fate, or simply accept your doom? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you've enjoyed this journey into the world of mythical curses, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating stories that shape our understanding of the past. Before we go, let's leave you with this haunting thought. A curse is not just a punishment, it's a story that refuses to die, echoing through time to remind us of the power of our choices and the weight of our actions. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious.